Good evening. Buenas noches. Thank you all for joining us tonight here at the Jordan Schnitzer Museum of Art for the Meet the Artists event with Juan de Dios Mora. Meet the Artists consists of a short lecture, an art viewing experience in the Gilkey Research Center, and a follow-up conversation with the artists upstairs in the Barker Gallery. I am Dr. Miramontes Olivas, curator of academic programs and Latin American and Caribbean art, and I want to acknowledge that we are on Kalapuya Ilihi, the traditional indigenous homeland of the Kalapuya people. Dispossessed of their homeland between 1851 and 1855, the Kalapuya today are citizens of the Confederated Tribes and continue to make contributions to the land we call today Oregon. In a series of events and exhibitions that highlight their voices, as well as those of other marginalized communities and groups, the GSMA is pleased to introduce you today to Many Wests, Artists Shape an American Idea, and to Juan de Dios Mora, whose works are in the exhibition. Mora is assistant professor at the University of Texas at San Antonio, where he has been a mentor to hundreds of students since 2012. Mora received his Master of Fine Arts in printmaking at UTSA, a Bachelor of Fine Arts in painting, and a Bachelor of Arts in Art History and Criticism. Mora's artworks have been exhibited at the Hood Museum of Art, Dartmouth, Frist Art Museum in Nashville, Amon Carter Museum of Art in Fort Worth, the Smithsonian American Museum in Washington, the Hart Museum of Art in Gainesville, Gallery 936 in Pittsburgh, RBR Gallery in Omaha, Museo de Arte in Ciudad Juárez, Mexico, and at the Unidad Académica de Estudios Regionales in Jiquilpan de Juárez in Michoacán, Mexico, among other venues. In the past decade, Mora has been faculty advisor of the Printmaking Club at UTSA, as well as a curator of exhibitions to support fellow artists in the Texas region. Not only has Mora engaged with the art and academic communities, but he is also a co-founder of Asombrarte Collective, where he works with refugee children, teenagers, and their families. Recently, he also joined the San Antonio Museum of Art as museum educator to work with people living in local shelters, to teach them about art, but also to support them, inspire, and provide tools of empowerment. His visit today here at the GSMA is supported by the Art Bridges. Please join me in welcoming him.
Thank you everyone for having me here. It's a wonderful opportunity for me, and thanks to the Museum of Jordan, Adriana, and everyone involved in this mini or big project. And I'm really enjoying everything so far with this experience. And hopefully you enjoy my presentation today. Adriana just did a really amazing introduction. Thanks for the research, and I really appreciate it, and spot on. One of the things that I like to do is to help the community. I like to go there, really, what I say is spread my wings. It's probably, those wings can influence other people and basically help the art community, but also help the new generations. It's one of those things that I didn't have in Mexico. Coming here to the States, having everything that the United States can offer, and take those opportunities and basically utilizing it in a way to help the community, it has helped me a lot, not just in my practice, but also as an art maker. So today, hopefully you enjoy my presentation and see a little bit who I am, what I do, and hopefully what I'm gonna be in the future. So in the first slide, you're gonna see a little bit, that's me, when I still have hair, I'm sorry, but a little bit younger, but then that print is my second print. The first one that I did, it was a relief. It was basically horrendous. It was not okay. But on this one, I put it here because it's a self-portrait. And in that one, it's a woodcut, but then I wanted to show it to you because during that time, especially going to a small university in Laredo, Texas, which is border town to Mexico, um, in that print, I wanted to be experimental. You're gonna see in my face how it has these roller marks. During that time, I didn't know what printmaking was. I was just taking the class, but I didn't see the importance of the media itself. For me, being an adventure student, having that energy with so limited tools, and equipment, but I have that energy to experiment. And that basically allowed me to do much better in my future. So I'm gonna tell you a little bit who I am, where I come from. So I was born and raised in Mexico in a small ranch. You're gonna see that's the ranch, all the way up there, and that's in that picture. And right below, you're gonna see a little bit the location. So that is called Acacico, Jalisco. It's basically really kind of like center of Mexico. And we have a lot of limitations. Our education for us, it was not available. It was just available through the parents, storytelling, my friends, or you, whatever you have available around you. That's another thing that actually, helped me to actually become who I am today. Be reliable what you have around. It's not so much about the folklore stories or your dad sometimes lying about stories or exaggerating stories, but it's something beautiful that can be, passed on to the future generations. And now that future generation of that time. So that's where I was born and raised. Then later, coming here to the States, I started to become a little bit more educated. Here, the education had really huge impact on me. And then also the language, the living, the education, everything had a huge impact for me. So I took everything that, the education was given to me in a way that actually I'm gonna take advantage of that and basically use it for my, for my artwork, but also for my concepts. So in this one, you're gonna see Jose Guadalupe Posada and Luis Jimenez. Jose Guadalupe Posada is basically this really important character artist from the Mexican, Revolution. And during that time, he was doing what we call broadsheets. Broadsheets talks a little bit about happenings or events happening during that time and put into kind of like a piece of paper and passing those news to people, illiterate people. And basically, sometimes those broadsheets come in rhymes, like songs, corridos, we call them corridos. And right next to it is Luis Jimenez. It's a huge contrast when it comes to generations or different time periods in the art world. But Luis Jimenez, he was one of the pioneers of the Chicano art movement. And I had those two because both of them, they work with the calaveras, with the dead. And the way that, how they were not afraid to use icons from their own culture, utilize it in a way that portray their own stories, their own experiences into a story. And then later, I started to practice more and more and more, art making. Having a background in painting, you need a drawing. So what I do first, I do the drawing. After the drawing, I transfer that into the piece of linoleum. And I use linoleum because it's really easy to carve, but also it's actually easy to actually store. You're gonna see there in that picture in the top left how I start with the drawing. So that's actually my initial step. I start really gestural, and after that I start adding more details, more details, and to have more refined drawing. And once I had a refined drawing, on the back of the drawing, I shade it with a pencil, I put on top of the linoleum, and I trace it. Because I put graphite on the back of that paper, that transfers the image into the top of the linoleum. And you're gonna see on the right a little bit how I work. So basically, once I transfer the image, I come back with Sharpies or pencils, and I start shading the areas that I want to remain on the actual block. Because the block, the way it works, linoleum, basically all the areas that you need to carve is gonna be the white areas. It's basically, carving just the opposite of just making a mark. When you make a mark, you make a black mark. But here, you're carving the areas that actually is gonna be white. And after that, I go into the printing process. Some of you guys probably already know the process, but let me remind you how it's done. So basically, you have the block, which is the lino cut or the stamp, and basically you put some ink on top of that, and then you put your paper on that, on the plate, and then you run it to the press. You're gonna see right in the middle of me, how I'm actually cranking. And when I printed my own, I had to push the bed. It's not one of those electric presses where you press the button and the bed kind of goes slowly through the rollers. But here, basically, it's called the drums. Here, I'm just cranking. So I'm trying to make an effort to make it work. And it works. So, and then on the right, the top right, you're gonna see the press. So that is used to print. Some of you guys, the stamps, when you ink it up, you press some, you put some force to transfer the ink into the paper. Here we use a different type of equipment. And right at the bottom is a little bit the outcome, how it's printed. Basically, you make a multiples of one stamp. That's what I do. And then early works. So early works, I was telling you how I used to do prints here and there. When I started my high school years, I started to do screen printing. We used to print the logos for the high school. Our mascot was a tiger. We used to print logos with the tiger, with the logo. I didn't know it was pre-making. The only thing that we care is to make things happen for the, because we wanted to make money, because with that money, we used to buy pizza after those events, selling the shirts. But from there, I went into my first class, what we call the basic pre-making, and then I started to do relief, because that was the first assignment. And this is my first lino cut ever. So because of that print, I was introduced to pre-making in a more formal way. And in that print, I asked my dad, can you help me this homework? I need to say, I need to do a slogan, or I need to do a verse that actually has to do with the Latinos. Si tú no te mides, el tiempo te mide, which means if you don't measure yourself, the time will measure you, which means, probably if you don't do the things right now, later it's gonna have some effects. And I try to work with the iconography. You're gonna see some feet there. You're gonna see the skull and the candle. That's just me trying to be awesome during that time. But then I didn't know what I was doing during that time. It was just me exploring. And the second one, it was the print that you show at the, it's just, see at the beginning, it's basically a self-portrait. And then this is my third print. And during that time, when I did the first and second print, I didn't care so much about the pre-making. I was just taking it because I needed to take it. And in this one, this really gave me this revolution in my life when it comes what I wanted to do, what I wanted to be when it comes to be an artist. So I did this for an assignment, and my professor asked me, Juan, please do a print. And during that time, I didn't have money, but I had some leftover pieces of linoleum from my basic class. So I used those 3 pieces, and I did a multicolor lino cut, and they critique everyone, Juan, we love your work, you should keep going, this, and that. Like, okay, I'm gonna try. And after that, it was something that I actually, I realized it was for me. Pre-making is for me, and especially relief pre-making. So after that, I did this one in my undergrad years. I started to put more effort, more time, a little bit more research into my artworks. On this one, because the education, especially the art history, have so much impact in my life, especially the Renaissance time. How all this stuff, it was so important for, first of all, it's the Renaissance, but how it's so important for a time period. So what I decided to do is to use the Assumption of the Virgin and have an immigrant. That's another thing that I started to do, kind of do more, kind of like activist type of, artwork, a little bit more aggressive with the commentary that I wanted to do with my imagery, but also the concept. So in this one, you're gonna see this, which is my dad ascended to heaven. My dad immigrated to the United States, and then he really suffered during the journey. And then he told me he was really bad, and they did everything for us. So, and then one thing that I was thinking, what's gonna happen to all the people who die? Who's gonna respect and who's actually is gonna pray for them? So there's a lot of immigrants who died during the journey that nobody claims them, because nobody knows where they're coming from. So what I did this print, a tribute to all these people who really is making a huge effort to bring to do everything for their families. So you see this person ascending to heaven, and at the top you're gonna see a penacho, tons of angels helping to ascend this to heaven. But also there's gonna be some iconography there that represents a little bit the bad side. You're gonna see a line. I'm not sure you can do, can you see my arrow? You see it right here? Okay, awesome. So here you're gonna see a line that represents a little bit the border patrol, and then because they're green, and then I use beans. The beans I use it in a representation because when I came here, United States, I migrated to United States when I was 14 years old, and everyone used to call me beaner. I was like, what is beaner? I asked around, and I asked my dad, and my dad was like, mijo, don't pay attention to that. It is, don't pay attention to that. And later I found out what it was. That derogatory term, it didn't affect me at all. That empowered me. So I started to use beginners, but I kind of give it a twist, more like a form of a fertility or a new beginning or something that, more a positive, kind of like an attitude. So if you see beans there, it's because that's the reason why I use those. Then later, because I started with some kind of activist form, in my artwork, I tend to be really goofy sometimes. You saw that a little bit at the beginning of the presentation. But one thing that I noticed, my community, they rely on survival. They rely on saving money. They rely on trying to make everything last for a long time. If it's something breaks, and then have something else and just fix it, but without money. So in this one, you're gonna see a little bit what Laredo is. So Laredo, when you go to Laredo, where I stayed there for, I stayed there from 1998 all the way to 2007. So probably it was just 9 years, but those 9 years, it really helped me to realize how my community works. Not just my family, my community, but also I'm talking about Latinos. And this one, you're gonna see how they transform this car into an ice cream truck. And like, sometimes I scratch my head, like, what is this creativity comes from? That is so beautiful. We criticize that. We make fun of that. Well, we, being Latinos, criticizing these people is basically we're jealous of what they do. We're like, oh my God, that is fantastic. So in my prints, I started to adopt a little bit what they do. You're gonna see this character on the left with the bicycle, and then later I started to kind of like use that as a reference for me to create artworks. You're gonna see this character, and then this bicycle is a fictional kind of, bicycle. If it functions, probably it's gonna function, but I wanna talk about the barbado posture, I wanna talk a little bit about the pride, about, the aesthetics, and not being afraid, whatever you can afford or whatever you can put together of, of objects or whatever you have on hand, it's gonna be okay. What matters most here is basically your creative process, how proud you are about, your creation, your fantastic, vehicle. So on this one, you're gonna see it's called Presumiendo la Bicicleta con la Dentera de Guajolote. It's just bragging the bicycle with the turkey forehead. So why I did a turkey? Because in Mexico, the turkeys, they used to chase you. They like to get like stand their wings and kind of chase you. And we as a kid, we used to like play with them. They were like, they chase you. They don't care so much. So, and I use that, in the front as a bumper to represent being brave, be courageous. And I think that the characters that I'm using, I want to show that presence with the community and what we can afford to the daily life, but also to the culture among, my community. And you're gonna see us wearing sandals too, representing a little bit about being humble, having, not being rich and something like that. And then in the actual frame, you're gonna see la picuda, which means the best one, the courageous one. That's what it means. And it has a gallon of water right under the seat. That represents a little bit about immigration, people who needs water when they do the crossing. So another thing that I was telling you, I was to do, political artwork, but I wanted to do it in a way subtle, not in your face or something so aggressive. I wanted to be more subtle, but still making a strong, comment about politics or what's happening, to immigrants. I'm gonna move on to the next one, and this one is I consider masterpiece. So no, this one is basically talking a little bit about how women can actually have access to, being creative, to be empowered, how they can actually do something for the community. So all of us, when I talk all of us, including you too as part of this group, we can do everything that, to move forward and improve our community. And here, basically, it's called La Clase. Sorry, not La Clase. Mi nave can fly. So my spaceship can fly. I wanted to portray a little bit how you can escape the destruction of the world. And why the destruction of the world? Because I did this piece for a series called The Maya Prophecy of 2012. So supposedly the Mayans had this on the calendar, had a prophecy that the world was going to end in 2012. So I did this series of how we, Latinos, we're going to create these spaceships to escape that destruction. All right, so on this piece, what I'm trying to do is basically how, we Latinos, what we're going to do to actually escape that destruction, that atrocity, this thing that's going to happen in 2012. So what I did a series of prints depicting these people kind of with vehicles escaping the world. So in this one, you're gonna see a woman kind of like yelling, screaming, being happy, being excited, but also leaving behind what is Earth, And it put like classes too, even people. I mean, whenever they do the vehicle, they need to have a certain character represents you or that character. Does that make sense? So it has personality. That's what I'm trying to do in this print. And Mi Nave Can Fly, I want to have sometimes text. Text is really powerful when it comes to having a message. I learned this because of the Chicano movement, how they use posters with text. And it's easy to read, but also transmit an idea or certain concept that needs to be addressed, in a more polite way. And I think text is so powerful within the prints. All right, great. So we're gonna move on. So, and then one of the things that I wanted to do is basically portray immigrants, how will be the crossing, from one, country to another one, how will it be more pleasant? Living in Laredo, I heard a lot of stories of people, dying or, drowning in the river. So I wanted to portray, an immigrant crossing the river in more pleasant and more kind of like a style, really, proud way. So I did this character being, having this kind of like a ride, being pulled by animals. And right at the front of the print, you're gonna see a small coyote right here. So coyote in Mexico is used for the people who smuggle, people. But then on the back, you're gonna see this character sitting a really relaxed, chill, like kind of like a Roman pose, when you sit in the thrones. Really pleasant, proud what he's accomplishing. And I wanna do with style, fashion. This one, again, we're talking a little bit about the end of the prophecy, the Maya, the 2012, the Mayan prophecy, the escape of this destruction of the world. And I use the 35 south and north sign for the highways because 35, the highway connects Mexico all the way to Canada. So we use the 35 as a form to say, either you're from the south or the north, but also it's a connection between these 2 points, these 2 countries. And another thing that I want to do is to portray the characters, not with a sense of fear, but the sense of, to be courage, to have energy, to be enthusiastic what's gonna happen. Because, if something destruction is there, the best thing that you can do is basically embrace something, embrace happiness. And what I'm gonna do right now, I'm gonna move on to what I call my new works. So what I saw is basically what happened in 2012 all the way to 2017, 18. And I'm working in small prints right now. And this one started as a small adventure. So what I started to do is small prints, a small, probably 4x6 the size. And I started to work with color. And I love color. And this one is basically, I'm planning to do 100 prints. So far I have 30. And every year I'm doing 10. So that means I still have about 7 more years to go. But these small prints, it talks a little bit about wrestlers. And the wrestlers to me is so important because it's part of the popular culture, but also how, superheroes can be more physical form for me. It's not more an action, figure or, or this character from this comic book. For me, the wrestlers, they were my superheroes. And you can find more information. There's the QR code right there. But all of them, they have a headdress with a different animal. All of them, they have different colors, different backgrounds. And the animal represents a little bit the character of that specific, wrestler. And then this is what I call my masterpieces. And my masterpieces, it requires more work, more research, a little bit more thought of me sitting down and basically explaining a little bit what's going on there. I work with a lot of symbology. It is something that I really love. It's something I learned for the Renaissance time when they use different iconography, allegorical, and how they can be applied in a way that can, if you put the time and imagination, why not? You can put together things that allows you to have an adventure within my artwork. So this one is basically I'm the one working on new works, which is old people. Nah, I'm getting old too. That actually they're having a second chance in life. What we'll do, I feel like I'm getting older. I feel like I want to go back to, my early years and have that energy and really live what I didn't experience during those years. So this print, I have portrayed this character going hunt for the chupacabras. He's ready with his, plunger. Why not? He has the cabra, the head cabra on the top, like, I'm going for you. But then comedy is something or comical style is something I really like to do in my artworks, but also color. Color is so important for me. And it's something I really love and enjoy. And hopefully that transmits something, a concept, a meaning just with color. And then I like to put energy with the mark making in my prints. And then also I'm working in a new series that this one is a little bit more elaborate. And I like to work with like I said, with the law symbology. But this new series, I'm trying to portray people from my community and put it in a pedestal, giving them thanks, what they do, telling them that they're actually necessary in our daily life, to progress, as a humans. And then, but also I wanted to portray all of them to a proud form, what they do. And you have a wrestler on the left, and it's a lot of tons of iconography there. I can stay hours and talks about it. And then on the right, you're gonna see this character being proud of what he is, which is a Latino, Mexicano, has a boxing glove, the shirts of the soccer team. But that's it for now, guys. But then we have questions. Do we have time for questions?
The big color one, how big is it? Or the recent one? Yeah, that one. What's the size?
That one
How
is.
many blocks is that?
Oh, this one is 10 blocks. Okay, multicolor block. The registration, I use a T-bar registration. For each block, I printed probably about 9 or 10 colors. And the background probably is about 14 or 15, 16 colors, layers. And then the size of this one is, I didn't put the size. I'm so sorry. It's 26 and 1/4 in height, and then length is 20 inches. And I use Reeves lightweight to print that one. It's a beautiful paper, by the way.
So Daniel, could you please lead us to the Kyoto Research Center? Thank you so much. Don't leave.
Yeah, don't leave, guys. Thank you.